Hey everyone, it's Callum from Cagefront, and we're going to be recapping UFC Fight Night Henry Cejudo versus Song Yadong, which has just taken place in Seattle, and this card absolutely delivered. This is the best fight night we have had of 2025 because 8 of these fights ended up as finishes, with every single prelim fight having a finish as well. It honestly just sped through, but it was such a fantastic card. We went 8 out of 11 on predictions, with 6 of those fights being perfect predictions. So I got the exact win method on them, and we had pretty much amazing moments all the way up until the main event, which was obviously Henry Cejudo versus Song Yadong, which is what we're going to get into now. Now, looking at Henry Cejudo, he got a ridiculously bad eye poke. Not one, but 2 eye pokes at once. Both of Song's fingers went straight into his eyes. And yeah, there was a bit of blood in his left eye, and that's the one that he was wailing and complaining about. So you can understand that to a certain extent, because when he got the eye poke and they restarted, he took the full 5 minutes. And you could tell, like, I mean, he had 5 minutes of rest, but he just was not striking at all. He was pretty much just running from Song the entire time, and Song was just trying to catch him. And he wouldn't be doing that with 5 minutes of rest. If he had that 5 minutes of rest and he was completely healthy, he would be trying something, unless he literally just thought he couldn't beat Song. And when we look at the decision, I think Song pretty much did have that 30-27. You could argue Cejudo possibly could have had that first round for the 29-28. He was starting off well when it came to that first round. I mean, he had the octagon control, and especially through into the second round, he was utilizing a very nice jab. Got to give it to Cejudo. Yes, he's 38 years old, but the guy is still pretty fast, and he was landing the outside leg kick pretty well, and he was actually getting good striking combinations off. Song was pretty damaged on his face. I mean, there was a couple cuts on his face, so that leads me to believe even more so that Henry just wasn't trying to quit. So obviously he's 0-3 now, which is not looking good for him and his title prospects at all. They're looking at rematching this fight. Will it happen? I mean, possibly. Henry's obviously just said it on the mic that he would take the rematch, but who knows with Henry? Who knows if that's actually going to be true and come to fruition by the time, I don't know, like a week's come by. I mean, a week's gone through. He could literally say something on the Pound for Pound podcast and just say, no, there's no chance I'm fighting someone like Song who's fighting dirty like that, and he wants to fight someone else. Now, if he's going to fight someone else, possibly like Jose Aldo or something, because he was looking decent on the feet. Obviously, Jose Aldo has got the striking there as well, and they're of a similar age. There's a possibility there, but and like Henry, he's just not winning the title. There's no chance. 38 years old, with the ability that he has, and also the detriments that he has to his game, like the shorter reach, and he's just smaller than a lot of those guys in that division, and his takedown offense is just not working out for him, which is obviously the best part of his game. I mean, granted, he's fought Aljo and Marab, but looking at him against Song in this fight, the takedowns were not there. I mean, Song's sprawling capability was very, very good, and Song was landing good combinations. He was quicker to the punch. He was just landing more volume overall. He did just outclass him in this fight for the amount of time that we actually got this fight for. So it could get the rematch. I mean, Song, that's really what he wants. But aside from that, I mean, we could possibly see a rematch between Song and Marlon Vera, because that was very controversial. But aside from that, when it comes to Cejudo, if it's not going to be a legend like Jose Aldo, and if it's not going to be Song, I think it's got to be a retirement party. Now, moving on to the co-main event between Brendan Allen and Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. This was not a casuals fight. If you are more of a hardcore fan, this was a fantastic fight because the transitions were just absolutely incredible, and to a casual, it's obviously looking like they're just hugging and wrestling for 15 minutes. But when you're looking at it like directly and you know what's going on, the reversals from Brendan Allen against the control and just grittiness and pressure of Fluffy, I mean, this was just a fantastic fight and a rare fight to see when we look at the landscape of the middleweight division, because aside from Khamzat Chimaev, these two are the only ones that are going to be able to put on transitions to this level against each other consistently for 15 minutes, and they did a fantastic job. And I got a perfect prediction. I did think Fluffy Hernandez would take the decision, but I did not think it would be easy, and I did think that Brendan Allen would win the first round, but then get out controlled and just just smothered in the second to the third round, which he did. There's about 3 to 4 minutes of control time from Fluffy in the second, and in the third round, it's about 2 to 3 minutes. But that first round, Brendan Allen looked good with the striking, and when he got it to the ground, I mean, he had more submission-based attempts there as well, and landed the beautiful elbow to split Fluffy's eyebrow open. Now, going into the second and the third, that's where Fluffy, just classic Fluffy, just absolutely making it ugly, smothering, beautiful positioning when it came to controlling Allen. Absolutely fantastic, making sure he could not post, he could not frame, and he was simultaneously trying to get those chokes in, but was more so focused on that control realistically, because there was a point in that first round that he clearly realized when he was trying to really hunt the submission off the back and he slipped off. That's when Brendan Allen got on top of him and controlled him the rest of the round and completely split his eyebrow in half. So that's where the wrestling really came in for him. And when it comes to wrestling purely, he is just better than Brendan Allen. And that was the big part of him winning this. But it was not so easy, obviously, going through into that second round. It was 1-1. And the thing I loved is Robbie Lawler in Brendan Allen's corner going like fucking Terminator mode, saying, do not let this motherfucker wrestle you anymore. You need to strike with him. No more submissions, just damage. Like classic Lawler style. I love that from him. But obviously it didn't pan out for him in Allen, but it was a great fight regardless. Now, when we look at what is next for these guys, I mean, we've got Fluffy, who is on a 7-fight win streak. I think we've got to see him against possibly KO Baralho. KO Baralho, depending on the time frame and how long he's going to wait for someone above him, it's going to be tricky. I mean, he could fight someone like Sean Strickland, but yeah, it's Strickland with politically, it's going to be a bit tricky because I mean, as well, they've trained together recently, especially they were training literally for the 312 fight together, so it might be easier said than done to make that. Or we could look at Fluffy versus Robert Whittaker for a styles-based clash. I think either of those two would be fantastic matchup for Fluffy Hernandez. And then when we look at Brendan Allen, he's going to chop down the card a little bit. Honestly, I would love to see him. Honestly, I would love to see him against Bo Nickel. I'd love to see him try and redeem himself against a guy who should technically be a better wrestler than Fluffy, and see if Bo Nickel can really go against a guy that is a very, very good submission artist, and see how well that wrestling defensively holds up for Bo Nickel to see if he is actually the real deal. Now, moving on to my Fight of the Night award, I'm going to be giving this to Rob Font versus Jean Matsumoto. Now, Jean, I mean, credit to this kid. This guy's 25 years old, coming in on like a week to 2 weeks notice at a catch weight, so his cardio should be out the fucking window, and he's going against a top 10 fighter, and my goodness, he has only gained fans from this fight. I mean, even straight off the bat, like you literally see this was like a long day for him. I mean, he got stung early, which was a bit sneaky from Rob Font off the glove touch. Like they did the glove touch and a 1-2 straight down the pipe right off it from Rob Font. Usually they take a step back or they acknowledge each other. Nah, they landed straight. The jabs were working fantastically well against Jean throughout the fight. Classic Rob Font with his straight style boxing. But Rob Font, I mean, the guy was struggling against the takedowns like again and again. I mean, he was doing a good job of getting up, but Jean Matsumoto did a fantastic job of securing the takedowns. I mean, he was able to not only do that, but smother him against the cage for a fair amount of the time. Honestly, I had Jean Matsumoto winning this fight. I had him 29-28. I honestly thought that he did win the first and second round, but I'm overall not mad about it because the judge in the split decision gave it to Rob Font with that first round. It was a very close round. It was the volume against, you know, the control and the takedowns. But ultimately, you know, I just think it's so impressive from Jean Matsumoto. I mean, the fight IQ this guy has, like, at his age, going against a guy like Rob Font, a top 10 fighter with no camp, is seriously impressive. I mean, he was doing a very, very good job of making sure he's keeping himself safe defensively with his lateral movement and keeping a good striking guard as well. And then on the offensive, mixing up the outside leg kick and the kick up top. He's very good at targeting all three areas. And yeah, he was tagging Rob Font and actually outboxing him at points, but we look at the third round. The third round was the most drastic round for one fighter, and that was for Rob Font. Rob Font did a fantastic job, especially with his elbows. I mean, cut Matsumoto open very nicely on a takedown entry, and also stop takedowns most of the time throughout that fight. So I'm not mad about the decision overall, but Jean Matsumoto seriously needs to be rewarded for this. I mean, the guy needs to have a fight where if he wins it, he gets top 15 shot. I think that just has to happen. And I think he should fight Adrian Yanez. I think Adrian Yanez, good kind of little storyline there, because Rob Font obviously took out Yanez. Yanez was in a very, very sick fight with Daniel Marcos. So if we get the striking pedigree between Matsumoto as well as Adrian Yanez against each other, that's going to be an absolutely banging fight. And we can see Yanez's ground game and see if he's actually improved it against such good wrestling and transitional capabilities from Jean Matsumoto. I think that fight would be absolutely fantastic. Now, who could Rob Font fight? That's where it's a bit hard. I think we're going to have to wait to see. I think we could see him fight possibly the loser. Maybe, honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing, he's fought like everyone. He's fought Figgy, he's fought Corey, he's fought a lot of fighters. I'm trying to think who, he could honestly fight Henry Cejudo or Song Yadong, depending if that fight actually gets made or not. It's really hard to say. There's a couple options there, but yeah, I don't, like, could possibly like a Marcus McGee, but then again, you need to see him fight someone above his ranking. I mean, it was a very close fight, but he's done a lot. I mean, he's just fought a guy, like, he saved a spot on the card, fought on, 2 weeks notice technically for a guy that he realistically couldn't prepare for. He stayed on the card when Dom Cruz left. So there are a few options there, but I mean, we're probably realistically going to be looking at some form of rematch for him. I wouldn't be surprised. Or, I mean, he could even be like an Umar Nurmagomedov bounce back fight for Umar, or if Font just beats Umar, I mean, credit to him. The guy could possibly get a title shot soon enough. So yeah, there's a couple options there, but ultimately a fantastic fight. Now, looking at the performance of the night award and the fighter to watch award, I have to give it to Jean Silva. This motherfucker has max aura now. This guy is ridiculous. He has like 5 different personas. He's like a split personality on crack, but the guy just puts on an unbelievable show. He literally just toyed with Melsick pretty much the whole entire time, and he was just showboating the entire time. Puts a straight right down the pipe, drops him like a sack of potatoes, and then just looks at the ref. And he's just like, you were going to stop it, or do I have to put this guy's face through the canvas? And Melsick didn't even know where the fuck he was. He was done. I mean, I don't know why old mate, the ref, bloody McDonald, I don't know why he wasn't doing anything to actually stop that, because he was clearly out. I guess he was just trying to see if he was going to fight back, but absolutely brutally annihilated him. Perfect prediction on that one. I did think that he would be a second round KO. Thought Melsick would be able to hold in there a bit longer, but you gotta give it to Jean Silva. The guy's a freak. 4 fights, 4 stoppages in the UFC. Get this guy into the top 15 immediately. And even funnier, he is now called out Bryce Mitchell for the comments that he has made, and he's just like, I will deal with him. If he fights Bryce Mitchell, he will probably kill Bryce Mitchell. And if he goes up to lightweight, which he can do either one, he deserves a top 15 in either. I would absolutely love to see him fight Michael Chandler at some point. That would be an absolute train wreck of a fight. And it's a huge possibility if Chandler loses to Paddy Pimblett. So we could possibly see that, and I'm definitely here for it. Jean Silva, keep an eye out for him, an absolute freak of nature. Now, looking at the finish of the night award and the upset of the night award, got to give it to Ricky Simon. This knockout was absolutely fucking insane. I mean, Basharat, the guy, he has a good Taekwondo base and he was having good movement early, but the guy's chin was so high up in the air. Beautiful 3-2 lead hook to that straight strike. Absolutely fucking folded him like a lawn chair. And now Farid is going to have to carry that Basharat bloodline, because, I mean, Javid is gone. I mean, absolutely destroyed in this fight. He had his eyes roll back to the back of his head. He was on the canvas for a fair bit of time, and man, Ricky Simon, after going 0-3 in the last 3 fights, getting a win like this, honestly, like knockout of the year potential. Honestly, it's so good to see that for him. I did not pick Ricky Simon. I thought it'd be a split decision for Basharat, but yeah, Ricky Simon put on that statement. Now, I think it would be good to give him someone like Jonathan Martinez to see if he can take out someone who has an iron chin like that. And if either of these guys beat each other, it's a top 15 shot for both of them again. Now, I hope you enjoyed UFC Seattle, and I hope you enjoyed this recap video. And if you want to see more MMA-based content, definitely check out the video on the screen, and please like, comment, subscribe. Goes a long way for the channel, and I will catch you in the next one.